All right, and we are live. Welcome everyone to Open Office Hours. My name's Jacob Miller. I'm the marketing and brand manager here at Headway. And with me today, I have, as always, every Wednesday, I have Andrew Verboncouer. And we take time every week for about an hour, so usually at 11 a.m. Central, to answer your questions. So whether it's about being a founder and launching a startup, or maybe you work in a startup as a designer or developer or product strategist, we're here to help you answer your questions, get you unstuck on any projects you're working on. And if we don't have an answer for you, we'll do our best to try to help you get one, whether it's from someone else on our team or finding resources that are available online for you to learn from. Because we don't know everything, and that's why we're here. We're here to also learn alongside you. And I hope you can join us, even if you don't have a question today, just to listen and tune in. And sometimes for me, like I don't have answers, but Andrew does, or vice versa. And it's just good to just hear all these questions and learn about all these new resources every single week. So it's always a fun time. Just a little bit background about me before we kind of jump into any questions. I'm the marketing manager here at Headway. So I help with things like this, like open office hours. I help with the content on our blog, help with the YouTube channel, help with anything with marketing, really, podcasts, all that kind of stuff, any copywriting, just the whole gamut. So it's been a really fun journey for me, going from a more agency type environment, working and doing work for a bunch of other clients, and now working and focusing on Headway. So here I am. I'll hand it off to Andrew, and he can give you a little background about himself too.
Yeah, thanks, Jacob. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. I didn't see it on there. So, as Jacob mentioned, I'm Andrew Verboncouer, partner and CEO at Headway, and looking forward to digging into your questions. I always like to say, give a little bit of background on me. I actually went to school for business and self-taught design, so have learned a lot through experimentation and really just building experiences over the last 15 or so years. And my experience is in design, in product strategy, and a little bit in some front end, a little bit of back end dev, but mostly on the product and design side. So excited to bring that perspective to you and your questions, and hoping to get you unstuck or give you more insight into what you're doing.
Awesome. Well, great. Well, I think we can jump into this first question here. Which I think is probably a common thought for a lot of startups, as they're getting started. So they're asking about early stage hiring and where you can go, what platforms you can use to leverage to find your first, maybe it's their first employee, first 5 employees, 10, 20, so on as they grow. So they ask, hey, founders, question for all of you, which platforms do you leverage when finding your first employees? Do you use websites and leads that come in via AngelList, or rely heavily on your VC or previous colleagues? And what are some of the pros and cons of each of those options?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think, your early hires are going to be the most important. So traditionally you see those come out of networks or, referrals or people that are going to vouch for somebody. And you're not looking just for the hard skills, but the soft skills, because early on in startups, it's likely your most tumultuous times. The seas have never been rougher as you try to figure out and ping back and forth between different advisors, and the advice you get in the startup world is polarizing. You're going to get torn in a lot of directions from different people, from different advisors, and your core team are going to be the ones who filter through all of those different perspectives and figure out, okay, what's the right one for us given our current situation, and knowing that every startup's journey is different. So I would say, definitely early on, try to rely on people or have worked with in the past, and try to convince them to join you. If there aren't any people, I think it's really important for you to understand how you're crafting those roles and responsibilities. I guess in either case you are, that's important, but making sure you're really clear around what someone's joining you for and what that journey is going to look like. I think it can be easy to assume, because of a role that maybe you worked with in a previous job, that you might assume all people know that, hey, if you're doing product management, or you're head of product, XYZ, and I don't necessarily think that's the case. So I think getting the right hiring process in place for you, even though you're a founder of one at this time, I think is really important. So making sure you can identify the role and responsibilities, understand what success looks like in that role, and be able to find people that align with that. I've seen a lot of startups and founders bring people on that are maybe friends that aren't aligned on those responsibilities, and that's when you really get the advice of, don't start a business with your friends, when you're I guess not on the same page with the different types of things that you're going to be doing, or the vision's different. But other than that, I would take a look into more of your needs, and there's a lot of sites out there that we leverage for, like, for design. We do a lot on Dribble. For development, we'll do posts on We Work Remotely. So it depends if your startup is remote. We work remotely. There's probably a lot of other platforms, Jacob, that you could help me with. I know we've been expanding kind of where we're looking there, but just trying to go to the communities for the specific craft that you're looking for. In product, we'll use Mind the Product a lot, and we'll get a lot of good leads through that. So there's a few different platforms that maybe we can share out. Um, so I guess one is like industry focused, so startups. The other one is more craft focused, like design, development, product strategy, marketing, sales. There's likely some niche communities where you could tap into folks that are looking to join. There's also something that I think was really really important. I'm going to try to find it real quick here. Um, I'm blanking on the company, but they created it's called like creating a better offer letter, and this is good for early employees. And this is at Carta actually, so I was able to dig it up. Let me share my screen. Let me know if you can see this, Jacob.
Yep, looks good.
So Carta came out with this, and this is actually when we were designing our offer letters and our benefit packages and all of that stuff at Headway. I remember finding this and thinking it was a really cool way to show. So being clear with folks around your offer summary, the positions, start date, what you know. This is primarily around shares for joining a startup if they're not a co-founder. Um, and there's different capital structures and preferences and things that really help to explain out a lot of the financials and vesting schedule for individual people, equity compensation, all of that stuff, and then going into employee benefits and if there's a commute schedule, your first day week. I think this sets a good tone for people as you're looking for them to join the team around just what the expectations are, what does a stock and equity mean for them. So really understanding yourself that you can communicate it to others, I think is really good.
Awesome. Yeah, I started sharing a couple like niche just to kind of get some folks an idea. Like, there's heymarketers.com. So if you're looking to hire a marketer, that's usually a lot of folks for like remote hiring and stuff. So sometimes it's hard to find people local. So don't be afraid to hire remotely. It can be, if you've never like had a remote team, it can be, a learning curve a little bit, but the talent pool gets much better when you're hiring outside of like where you live, which is great. Dribble, I put a link to Dribble. I don't know, Andrew, in your experience, like maybe one of the better sites for hiring developers, like vetted developers, maybe. I don't know if Toptal, or I'm not sure if in your experience. So
Yeah, I'm trying to think exactly where a lot of our folks come from. Obviously, referrals are big, so we
hmm
have people that know people on the team that enjoy working at Headway and joining us. So I think that's always good. Someone with a network on your team who, is willing to vouch for the environment that you have and the mission you're on. But yeah, we work remotely, Remote OK, a lot of remote-based sites, Stack Overflow, Authentic Jobs was one that we've posted on a lot for the different verticals or the different craft focused items.
yeah. I mean, honestly, you could just a little bit of searching online, you can pretty quickly find some pretty great platforms, especially some newer ones. And Twitter too is like a great place. Just like saying, "Hey, I'm looking for this type of role to help me on this journey. This is what I'm looking for." And usually because there's usually a lot of people looking for work or new opportunities, so it's not hard to start getting connections there. So Yeah.
I know there's a lot. I guess the other one that isn't really a job post community is on Twitter, like asking, "Hey, I'm looking for someone to join me. Here's maybe
Mm-hmm.
a couple point thread of the mission we're on and what we're doing and the role we're hiring
Mm-hmm.
for." And even just asking for retweets. I've seen the most retweets on things that, people, "Hey, please retweet for reach and, appreciate it," that sort of thing. The other one is just Slack communities. So going
Mm-hmm.
to something like a launch chat, which is a community for founders on Slack, or even just those, development or product focused ones, I think is always a good bet to. There's always opportunity channels, opportunities or jobs or gigs or something like that where people share. So you might be able to catch the eye of a few people that you don't know through those as well.
For sure. Awesome. All right. Well, I think we can move on to this next question. If anybody here watching on YouTube has a question for us, just throw it in the chat, and we'll be happy to answer it. And as you can see in this little scrolling ticker on the bottom here, if you have like a bigger question or want to like share your screen with us, like with a project, we actually invite you to this call, and we can walk through the problem with you and solve it together. So, but we can jump to this next question. And this one is a little bit, this person kind of elaborates a little bit, but their question is how to actually get in front of people to help validate my B2B SaaS idea. So how many people should you collect feedback from before building out the MVP? So I'll kind of share this. There's a lot of thoughts from this person. So my co-founder and I have a B2B SaaS idea in the real estate field. I'm pretty passionate about it because I used to work in the industry myself and have first-hand experience with the problem our product is solving. My co-founder and I have built a non-functional demo to validate our idea, and now I'm trying to connect with potential prospects to get feedback on how they currently manage the problem and an initial glance at our demo. For clarity, I've already gotten feedback from those within the network, but now I'm looking to get feedback to validate from folks outside of my network. My goal is to not sell them on the product, but simply hear and learn from their perspective. That is very clear in my initial outreach. I'm currently trying to reach out to potential prospects via LinkedIn connection and cold email, but have seen poor response rates. My typical message looks something like this. Hi, prospect. I just saw your company's website and wanted to introduce myself. He shares his username. I'm cousin Greg. Um, I'm in the very early days of building an app called the X that helps Y in the UK manage Z. And as a former X, I'm assuming real estate person, I've faced numerous challenges in the realm of real estate. My goal is to ease the burden of that process. I'd love a quick chat to understand your difficulties. When would be a good time to talk for about 15 minutes? Just to be clear, I'm not trying to sell. I want to hear and learn from your perspective. Either way, keen to hear back from you soon. So that's the message he's sending. And then they ask, my questions are the following. Is the initial outreach template compelling enough? And what other ways can I get in touch with prospects to validate my idea and gather more feedback? How many people should I be talking to? And just kind of curious, what am I doing right? What am I doing wrong here?
Yeah, so that was a long email.
Mm-hmm.
A little bit of a long email, I think, depending on how you look at it. But
Mm-hmm.
I think, the way that we lean is like you can definitely gather more information about the problem. So what you described here of, digging into the problem and the context and then showing a demo a little bit aligns with Google Ventures Design Sprints like Act 5 interview, 5 act interview, which we use quite a bit in either sprints or, even in the process. But I think like, going back to your question, um, how to validate my idea. I think there's a big gap between somebody saying they would use your software and you actually or them actually using it. And so our recommendation usually is to figure out in these conversations like what can you pull out of them, what can you extract, how do you identify the most valuable problem for you to solve for them that aligns with kind of your company vision, and how could you build a version that you could sell to them. So I think like we've seen a lot of folks try and get feedback on a prototype and show them and say, yeah, we have the problem, yeah, this looks good. They don't really have the context of pricing, and so they don't really have a mental model for what they should compare it against. Likely in B2B, they're likely buying other software, they're buying other solutions. So I think like digging into that and how they're solving the problem now is really important. And what we try to ask early on is like now that you've, once you show them the demo, like now that you've seen this, what are you thinking? Like, what do you think this might cost? And you start to get this idea for how they would price anchor it according to substitutes in the market or competitors or tools they're using now, or even things totally unrelated. So I think that's really important, but trying to use your prototype to then hone in on like what is an actual offer that you're going to bring to them and what does that price look like so that you can figure out. Most of the learnings in B2B are about the process for buying. Like, how do you understand their process for buying software? And we talk with B2B companies all the time and work with quite a bit. But a big risk to your startup is just the time it takes in the sales process and the time it actually takes to implement. So if you're at a financial tech company and you're trying to sell a solution to them, their buying cycle is likely really long. It involves a ton of compliance involvement. It involves vetting from their technical team. It might involve proof of like SOC 2 audits and, you know, like all of this stuff that you don't really think about when you present them. Oh, did I lose you?
Yeah, we lost your camera. We can hear you.
Okay, let me see if it'll come back up. Um, there we go.
There.
But so, a lot of the risk to a B2B business is like, do you have enough runway or learnings or knowledge about the buying process to really understand whether or not you can compete in the market? Because a lot of times it's 12 to 18 months to get something, bought through the sales cycle, purchased, and actually implemented and approved as a vendor, because there's, different agreements you have to get. So I think like trying to take your prototype and push it a little bit further and actually create an offer and say, in working with, other B2B companies, like instead of saying, hey, we're trying to pre-sell. Oh, did I freeze?
Yeah, you've been frozen for about 30 seconds. It's okay. You can just turn the camera off for a second if you want. It might end up showing Ryan's photo again, but we'll see.
Yeah, I don't know how to turn it off. There we go.
There we go.
Okay. So what was I saying? Sorry. I think one of the things is learning about the process, and then from a man, I lost my train of thought.
It's okay. It's all good.
Yeah. Okay. So crafting an offer, and I think a big pushback that we get from when we advise B2B startups to actually try and sell is that like, well, they're not buying anything yet. We're like, why? A lot of people will say, well, we'll buy when it's out. Why don't you reach back out to us when it's available and we'll buy it? And as a way to create scarcity, not just for scarcity's sake or like as a tactic, but think about what you could actually support for a pilot or a beta, a paid pilot or a beta of companies. Like, could you, is 10 B2B companies too many? Do you only have 5 spots? And so using that constraint as a trigger for them to say, hey, if this is valuable to you, here's what the cost is, and we're only working with 5 companies, and we're planning to actually start this pilot program in 3 months. 3 months from now, we understand the buying process and we understand that we need to get approved as a vendor for your system and recommend an implementation process that kind of backs up your start date. Because I think a lot of companies that are trying to buy software will try to push off that decision, but you're trying to learn about the buying process and like, can you actually sell this successfully? So using your prototype, my recommendation would be to not just talk to folks, but bring it the next step forward and craft an offer where you can figure out why they would buy or why they wouldn't buy, and really learn about those objections and start to document the buying processes that you're seeing across your target market. So, I think part of that is identifying what the most valuable thing is for you to build. So the problem interviews you're doing are really valuable, and just to figure out, you might in those interviews even have them stack rank things. So have a list of problems that the customers you're serving have, and have them, rank the severity of the problem. Hey, how big is it? How big is it right now? And Scott, the team that we're working, sales quality we're working with, has this 5P model in his book, which talks about, in B2B sales, there's 4 buyer types. There's a user buyer, there's an economic buyer, there's a technical buyer, and there's a product champion. You're likely talking to the product champion, showing them your prototype and whatnot. They're going to help you sell. But each one of those different buyers at at a corporation or enterprise has a different perspective to the problem. They might experience it every day. They might experience it once a month, and they some of them might not even think it's a problem, the thing that you solve. And so trying to understand and map out those perspectives is really important. Um, I'm just reading this again to see if there's anything else. I
Hmm.
would say as far as the initial outreach template, I would say shorten it. We use a framework in a lot of our outreach called SPEAR, which is short, personalized, and expecting a response. So, end it with a question. Um, Make it very, very short, easy to respond to. I don't know about you, but I get a lot of emails that are longer still, and I say, oh, I'll read this later, right? And later comes usually a week or two later, and things continue to get pushed down just because it takes a lot of mental capacity and a lot of time to focus on an email that's really long. You feel like you have to kind of reserve some time to do it. Um, so I think keeping them short, personalized, and expecting a response is important. And one thing that we look for as well when we're doing these prototype tests is being able to, still frozen, um, being able to ask for referrals. So of the prospects and folks that you're talking to, um, using that as a signal for voting of like, would they refer you to someone else in their company? Would they refer you to someone at a competitor that they know or a similar company that they know who would be interested in this problem? And so just looking for referrals as a gauge of how valuable do they think this is? Do they think that, you wasted their time or is this important? I think is good.
Awesome. I'm trying to find like a blog post or something about the spear approach. There's actually not a lot out there. Like I'm trying to find something. Um, hmm. Yeah, I can't find anything out there, Andrew. Kind of
Hmm.
crazy.
Yeah, I think that was
Um,
actually a framework we got from Scott.
yeah, so I wonder if he developed it. I don't know. Well, awesome. Well, I shared a link to his book in the comments there. Pretty sure his book you can get digital or physical. Pretty sure. It's got a lot of awesome as your startup grows, like everything you need's in there basically. It's kind of crazy. Um, awesome. Well, I think we can jump. Yeah, I don't know. Did you turn your camera off?
Yeah.
Did you unplug it from the computer?
No.
Try that. Let's try that. All right. Well, awesome. Well, while we're waiting for Andrew to get his camera hopefully figured out. So if you're watching on YouTube, would love to answer any of your questions you have. So whether it's about, app design, maybe some software development stuff, we can't answer deep questions on that, but we will do our best to maybe connect you with the right person or the right resource. Anything about product strategy or validating your idea, we're happy to answer it for you today. But otherwise, I think we can go to this next question here from Reddit. So this person asked, do you think you can build a successful startup using no code or low code development? This person shares, I have an idea that I really believe in, and even if it doesn't succeed, it's something I want to attempt to build for myself and my friends. I could probably wait about 2 months and maybe partner with a cousin who codes, willing to join us and convince him too. But I really want to start building this now. The app concept is similar to Airbnb or Uber, not in terms of potential, but complexity and function. I apologize if I come off as ignorant, but I'm just stuck on what I should do. Any advice would be appreciated. Andrew, are you with us? You
Yeah,
got it?
sorry. I
No,
was
it's
trying to.
okay. You can always change your picture.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, let me. So, do you think you can build a successful startup using no code, low code development? Absolutely. We've talked about this a little bit, but there's one that we've been working on, and we've actually been leaning a lot more into low and no code to help expedite the learning process of building new ventures. So, there's platforms out there like Bubble, which you can do mobile, responsive, or web-based applications. There's tools out there like Bravo. There's a lot of actually companies on Bubble that I've seen that have raised funding. I think Divergent is a financial tool that raised 365 million for their round. Um, and their whole thing's based on Bubble. One that we've been working on called Kinetic at joinkinetic.com is based on Bubble, and you would never realize it as a user. And so I think it is, you can build a successful startup and you can actually learn quite a bit quicker before you get to the scalable tech aspect of your company. So I would say, as you think about no code, like don't think about it as a lesser version, like a lesser quality, lesser fidelity. In a lot of cases, you can get 90% of the way there with less effort and really focus on the learning and iteration with your customers. And that's really the most important part of building a startup is going through those feedback loops. And no code and low code help you to do that faster and really work out the mechanics. It also helps you to, when you get to the point where your startup's ready for scalable tech, meaning like custom development or bespoke development, you have a much better idea of what is working for your customers, what the actual right flows are, what the logic is of your business application. And so sometimes you can even include, developers as part of your no code and low code builds to do the data architecture and make sure it scales so that when it comes time for you to port, your data is set up in a way that you can transfer that logic and those sort of ERDs to a new environment. So I would say, I would definitely look into Bubble. I know there's a couple things that are very similar to Airbnb and Uber on Bubble, where they actually build out, a similar tool. You can book things and actually schedule and book stuff right on there. So I would say I would definitely look into it. And one thing that we've been talking about internally with our product team and just how we communicate about the value of learning is, there's this analogy we've been talking through about, if you were going to launch a brick and mortar business, you wouldn't just show up and open up one day, right? You would do research on the area. You would understand like the household income and types of things that people in that area have bought or purchased before. You really try to figure out like, do we have enough of our customers in this region or in this location area to actually serve them? And you see this done really well by like Chick-fil-A, and they have such brand weight, like, hey, they could show up and people would just come, but they really analyze locations and research. If you're, opening up a mom and pop, retail shop, like you're going to want to do research to understand if you're in the right area, understand the foot traffic, understand the driving patterns, all of that. And so using no code is a way for you to show up earlier and do more research through the process and iterate with people rather than saying, which a lot of founders do, they'll just show up and say, all right, I have an app. Well, now what? Like if you woke up tomorrow morning and you had the app functioning as you imagined, what would you do? Well, you'd have to go build channels. You'd have to go figure out where your customers are. You'd have to go figure out what resonates most with them, like what's the most valuable problem. And so doing that up front is going to save you a lot of headaches later, where the cost of iterating with code and not really defining a problem and a customer really well is, you have a lot more friction in the process. There's more time, there's more burn. Your risk just goes up because you're not able to move as quickly through those feedback loops. So would definitely recommend looking into that.
Awesome. Yeah, I know there was another tool I saw too called Builder, BILDR. That was a newer kind of like Bubble, but for websites and web app building. I don't know how much support they have, but it seems like it's a newer tool that's kind of up and coming. There's also this there was a resource I found that had like a huge list of basically like 200 plus like no code resources. So let me see if I can find that again. I'll throw it in the links there. Here we go. Found it. But yeah, there's just a ton of great no code tools out there. And as Andrew said, it's not necessarily about like building like the final thing. It's about learning faster and like with less investment basically, because when you're starting out, you definitely don't want to waste money on and I go too far in one direction, right? Like, hey, we spent 50K, 100K going in this direction, but we realized we have to turn left a little bit and go over here or whatever. We're in the wrong market. We're going after the wrong customer. We're solving the wrong problem. The problem's actually upstream from that problem. Like that's actually just a symptom of the bigger problem, right? All those kind of things. So yeah, I think no code's a great way to just get in front of customers, test the idea in a pretty high fidelity manner. Like they look good and they feel good. No code tools do. And then when you're ready to like build the real thing down the road and get investment and do it, you can actually build it as you want. And who knows, by then no codes might be even better. So you might never have to leave no code. Who knows? But yeah. Oh, you're back. Welcome back.
I am back.
Nice. Awesome. Well, cool. Well, I think we can jump over to this next question. Not seeing any questions on YouTube today yet. So this person shares, people like the idea, but they don't use it. They don't use the app. What should I do? So the person shares, recently I built an Android app that helps people with their studies. I wrote 3 articles to promote the app and then shared these articles on platforms where my target customers are active. I got very good feedback in the comments. They liked the idea. I got a lot of requests asking when the iOS app would come out. But the problem is I see from my analytics that no one's using the app after they sign up. So did something like this happen to some of you as well? And if yes, how did you fix this problem? Or is it just the typical mom test problem where they're just saying it to be nice? The communities I posted to on typically call it BS pretty fast. So thoughts on user activation?
Yeah, I mean, I would definitely put this in the camp of, launching a solution without really understanding if what people, if the solution you have, like people care enough about, and do they care enough about to use it? I think, you know, I'm trying to look here. So they like the idea, and I got a lot of requests asking when the iOS came out. So, I think part of it could be, of people coming back into the app is just having enough nudges and notifications to remind them of the value you create. It's really hard to change behavior, which is what creating a new business is all about. Like you're trying to get them to use your platform, to leverage it, to get value out of it. And so early on and throughout your process, you need to do a lot of like behavioral design. And so we use the pirate model a lot to really try to identify like how do we get people to come back in, what features are they using most, how can we send emails and notifications and nudges to remind them of the value that they were looking for when they signed up. But I think we see this a lot with companies who say, hey, we launched our app, but it's not doing anything. What would you suggest? For us, that would be, that tells us like we need to go in and diagnose and understand like, are the customers we're serving the right customers? Where else are they going? How else are they solving this problem? And so we would likely kick off and recommend you going to actually grab 5 or 10 users, your most engaged users, and maybe 5 of your most engaged users and 5 of your least engaged, and just try to set up 15 to 20-minute phone calls with them and just talk about, what they're doing in the space, if they're solving it a different way, maybe what they thought they would get out of the tool. And, that will likely surface a lot of gems for you. Oh, I was using this, but I kind of got busy. And, like busyness is a symptom, like a busyness as a reason is a symptom of it not being valuable enough for them, or not being a big enough problem for them to prioritize using your platform. There likely will come out, out of that also competitors and maybe things they're doing instead, like, asking how they're solving the problem now instead of using your app, or, how, I think it's just really, really helpful to give you that perspective, and it kind of gives you both sides of the equation. The quantitative side, which is, hey, I can see from my analytics they're not using the app after initial sign up, and from the qualitative side, you'll understand, well, why is that? Is it the experience? Is it the value? They don't understand really what it can do once they get access. Is there a discrepancy between your landing page and the value you're talking about and what they see when they first get in the app, or are those two together? And so there's a lot of different factors that just talking with your customers will give you a better idea of, to understand, well, why are they doing things this way? The other thing I would recommend is setting up, we talked about nudges and emails, setting up a notification system or something like Intercom that fires based on events. So essentially what that would do is once you install it, it would integrate the events back into Intercom, and it would show you that someone signed up, but they haven't been back in, let's say, 2 or 3 days. Well, you could automatically send a message to anybody who fit that description of that behavior, and it would automatically send to them. Or let's say they came in and they used it for a week and then they dropped off. You can use those nudges and triggers based on their actual behavior and events to understand, like, can you help nudge them and pull them through that funnel to come back into the app and to get the value that you're promising to them. And so those are some tactics and tools that you could use to try and figure out, like, do people care enough about it? What's their perspective of how we're solving the problem? How, what else are they using in the marketplace? And then can we use these triggers and notifications and behavioral design to pull them through, to come back and try to start building a habit?
Awesome. We have Carla on YouTube is tuning in, and she just thought it was kind of funny that we're answering a question that she's kind of dealing with right now. Looks like they're working on. I'll just kind of share the comment here. They're trying to build a hot flash symptom app, getting users to try to use the app during a symptom episode. That's kind of interesting because I wonder if are you trying to build it like as a phone app? Because I know not everyone has a smartwatch, but I wonder if you could test this like Apple Watch market first, because what are the odds that they have their phone next to them, or maybe there's a way, because I know the Apple Watch has a lot of capability, so I'm kind of curious what you can take advantage of within the Apple Watch device. Got it. Yeah, I'm just kind of, yeah, I have a lot of questions actually about that, like how you would prompt somebody to just want to use the tool like as they're experiencing those feelings and symptoms. So yeah.
Yeah, I'm trying to think, so, we talked about behavioral design a little bit, and the formula goes behavior equals, or to design for a specific behavior. Let me actually see if I can join real quick. I can't.
What are you trying to do?
I was just gonna try to join so I could sketch, but we'll
Oh, on your iPad.
yeah, let me see.
If you share the link to your iPad, you should be able to. So if like you open the link and like share it with yourself on Slack, and
Gotcha.
you should be able to do that.
Yeah, let me try to pull that up quick.
All right, Carla. Andrew's gonna try to like talk a little bit more about this a little bit. I think he's just getting his iPad set up. Next time, Andrew, we should just have it ready to go in the background, because I know we can like keep it off screen until we need it. So learn as we go. Awesome. Well, if anyone else here is listening on YouTube and you have a question, be sure to drop it in the chat there. We're always willing to answer your questions today. Otherwise, if you haven't checked out on our channel yet, we have a bunch of other content about whether it's launching a new startup, or whether it's getting started with Figma design, or getting started with React.js, or even product strategy. We have a little bit of content for all that, because we believe that the development and design and products shouldn't be working in silos. They should be working together. So that's why we have all this content in one place. It's good to have teams that collaborate and share knowledge with each other. So that's why we're kind of building this channel here, the Headway channel on YouTube. But we also have 2 events coming up. Next week we'll be talking with John Zaratsky, from the author of Design Sprints and Make Time. So he'll be chatting with Ryan and Robert from our product team about the design sprint process and just kind of what he's been up to lately. That we deep dive into a conversation with him. It'll be live, so you'll be able to answer any questions. So if you have questions for him, you can ask right here on YouTube. And then the week after that, Clint from our design team, I should say, he'll be talking about storytelling in the design process and keeping everyone aligned there. Oh, Andrew, I'm going to mute you so you can mute oh, you got it. I think you got it. The iPad, it was just, yeah.
It won't actually let me share from the iPad, so we'll get that going for next time.
Okay, we'll figure it out.
Yep, we'll get that going for next time. But the thing I was going to say, Carla, is using the behavioral design model that BJ Fogg's put out there of, to design for a specific behavior or change behavior, we need to understand the motivations. So, why does somebody want to move away from what they're doing currently to, an existing solution? What emotional, functional, what sort of jobs are motivating them to move forward, or motivations that they have. And then there's an ability, which is kind of where your app comes in, right? It was going to be a phone app, maybe voice. So you're working on the ability to do that. And then there's likely a trigger. So I think what Jacob was mentioning is like, is there a trigger that you could define out, in a phone app and say, hey, do you feel like you're having a hot flash, episode, or you're having symptoms that could pull it open. I think, from an ability standpoint and a motivation standpoint, it'd be interesting to hear your perspective of, what happens. Like, do they just report it? I mean, I'm not familiar with hot flashes myself, so I can't really speak to, hey, if one happens, like, what do you do? What are your options? How do you solve it? Like, is it serious? Is it a chronic thing? I think understanding all of those things will help you figure out, what customers are you serving that are going to value that being, um, being available in an app for you to seek help, during a hot flash. Is that for people at a certain stage of life, at a certain age, and just figure out, how do you make them aware of the capabilities, or educate them on what to do, and how maybe you come in and help interject through your app or through your offering. Um,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yep. She was just sharing. I'll share that comment there. Um, Carl, I put a link in the chat there for you though. Andrew, it links to your startup week presentation, because you talk about the behavior, measuring behavior. So behavior, what someone does, motivation, why they want to do it, ability, how will they achieve it, and then what kickstarts the whole process. Like, what is the trigger?
yeah.
But yeah, so anybody that's here, you can check out that video. There's a lot more to unpack in that video as well. So about finding customers and prototyping, all that kind of stuff. So awesome. Well, very cool. Thanks, Carla. It's such a cool idea. I think definitely a lot of potential there, because it's such a specific problem that people want to better understand and get more control of, which is great. So yeah, it's awesome. Very cool. Let's see, what's the next question we have here? Here we go. So this one says, this person asks, new startup idea, don't know where to start. I think a lot of people, this is where their journey begins. So they say, so I've come up with a great idea for potential venture, and it's received validation from a number of different parties whom I'm comfortable talking to about it. I'm just super overwhelmed with where to start. Do I patent the idea? Do I create a platform first to get users? Do I incorporate the company? Any advice is appreciated.
Yeah, there's a lot of options, as we've talked about. There's a lot of different paths that you could go. Um, you mentioned, great idea for potential venture, receive validation. I would try to rank your validation, like what currency did they pay for? Is it time? Did they just say, yeah, this is valuable? Um, but really, like, trying to identify who your customers are is going to be the most important thing. Like, let's say you were creating an app or you had an idea for an app for, I'm trying to think of a good example. I think one of the things that we've been trying to boil down a lot of our perspective and advice to is trying to just go take things slower. Like, everybody wants to build, they see the successes and companies out there doing great things, but they want to build that and they think that'll come, hey, if I launch the app, it'll get there, versus where Airbnb took, I think they started in 2008. They've taken that long to get to where they are with a lot of pivots and learning, and they started really with understanding, like, could we change people's behavior? Like, would somebody want to rent out a couch in somebody's house, right? And would somebody who owns a house want to do it? So they started with their places, and it was kind of a, I guess, segue from what was like couchsurfing.com, which was like this global network of people who were open to people crashing on their couches, and they thought, hey, like, could we make some money towards our rent, and could we rent out a room in our house for a period of time when we're not there, that sort of thing. So, they went slow, and really before they built a platform, they were posting on Craigslist, they were posting on other platforms to try and see, like, would anybody engage this way? Were they interested? Was it too much of a leap to go from, hotels to now you're renting out someone else's house, you're sleeping in someone else's bed? How does that work? So I would really try to urge you to define out who your customer segments are. And for us, like, as we think about building new ventures, it's creating a clear line um, through a customer. So defining out the customer you serve, defining out the problem or problem stack that you think is most valuable, and that you're poised to solve, what the value is of you solving that, and what's the proposition, what benefits are they going to get by solving that problem, and then you get to the solution from there. And so every time you introduce either multiple customers or multiple problems, you amplify the risk of you starting out and actually gaining traction. A good example would be, if you were creating, I'm trying to think, Jacob, of a startup example here. If you were creating, I don't know, let's say you were creating a platform for learning, and instead of, you had a two-sided marketplace or something that you had a vision for, but you didn't have content yet, and you didn't have people that were willing to be taught by you. And so, where do you start? Do you try to get people, I'm trying to think of, like, there's ramifications across the entire journey of your startup. There's, every every single part along the way, from your marketing to your sales, will be impacted by who your target customer is. So if you
Let's
had a,
let's
yeah,
say if it's say it is a learning platform and it's for musicians. So one customer type is someone that wants to learn how to learn music. So we'll say guitar. We'll say be more specific. So guitarists that want to learn a guitar. So the one side of the market's people that want to pay for things, but then the other side of the market is people that want to sell their lessons or like teach. Maybe it's a live. Maybe it's like maybe there's videos, but there's also the ability to book like one-on-one time with a coach, with a guitar coach, a guitar teacher. So how would what would that kind of look like?
what was the first one?
So it's a guitar learning platform. So you have students and then you have teachers. So that's a two-sided thing. Like there's two different
Yep.
types of customers basically.
Yeah. I mean, so the value props for each are different, right? You have, like, if you were to think of messaging to somebody who's looking to learn guitar, maybe they've tried in the past, and you understand, like, hey, they tried to do it theirself. They really want somebody who can guide them. The messaging on that landing page and the whole sales funnel is going to be a lot different and speak to their perspective of problems, right? If you tried to build an app that served both people from the start and spoke to both things, you'd likely struggle. So for, if somebody's looking to buy a lesson, it's like, learn guitar in 6 weeks, and you guaranteed you'll learn these 7 chords, you'll learn how to play any song by ear, right? You'll really talk to those outcomes. If you tried to present that same thing to a guitar coach or a guitar teacher, the messaging is way different, right? The
Mm-hmm.
messaging is, their perspective is way different. Like, how would you, why would somebody sign up to teach guitar through your site? Like, how, are they going to make more money than what they're doing
Mm-hmm.
through Craigslist? Are they going to, get more volume than the referrals they've been getting from their existing guitar lessons?
Mm-hmm.
What are you opening? Like, hey, what are the benefits and the value of what you're offering? Is it, be a guitar coach from anywhere? Like, no longer be strapped down to your neighborhood guitar shop. You live anywhere in the world and teach guitar over Zoom. Could
The
teach guitar
yeah.
remotely. So the value is a lot different to both of those people. And with a marketplace, it makes sense. Like in that scenario, you'd likely want to just have at least one teacher, and then you could go get students and say, hey, are people willing to learn this way? And be able to sell that. A good example of like this before Twitch was a thing is Justin, I believe the founder's name is. They just streamed their life and what they were doing before they even built a platform called Twitch. Like, hey, do people even care? Are they interested in somebody else? And they realized, like, hey, there's personalities and there's like these celebrity influencers and things like that people wanted to stay in tune with, and spun a business out of that. So I would make sure that, you know, you're solving the right problem first. So in a lot of
Mm-hmm.
cases, that's distribution. So, you know, distributing to people that are looking to learn guitar is important. So, you know, making sure you have in your service blueprint, you have the ability to sell, or to have either, maybe you're the first coach, right? You have this vision for the platform, you're passionate about guitar, you're the first coach, and you can handle, let's say, 20 lessons, or maybe you do group lessons, and then, you know, once a week you'll do one-on-one with everybody. But when you get to that next step, it's like, okay, well, will somebody buy from a different coach that's not me, a different expert? And could you sell to somebody and say, hey, you know, right now you would start with 5 guitar lessons a week, or 5 people you're teaching, you know, but can scale to 20, and you can do it from anywhere, right? And you're trying to just sequence how you might build that business, and then next thing you know, you're building up both sides of the marketplace, but you're starting with the ability um, to deliver on it, you know, first, you know, before you go and build out tools for a teacher to then manage all of their customers and email them and invoice them, and right, like all of that, you figure out, hey, if I offered this service this way, would people buy it, and could we prove it out, and then figure out the next magnitude of, you know, of your process. But I
Yes.
would start with
Oh,
customers. Go ahead.
yeah. No, I was just gonna say, this example is probably already a pretty saturated market of there's a ton of different guitar platforms out there. But like just thinking about if there are competitors already, like how do you kind of, like Andrew was saying, differentiate, like whether it's they can make more money because you're taking less money from them, or maybe the value is they make the same amount of money, but like they're able to be a part of like a guitar teacher cohort where they're able to become a better guitar teacher. So maybe you're getting more like younger guitar teachers that can learn from people that have been doing it for 10, 20 years, right? So there's like that opportunity, like, hey, grow in your guitar teaching career with us,
Right,
right?
like
Like
teach the
that's
teacher model.
yeah, so there's like all, and then the mentors could get paid too. Like there's this whole, like, so you would pitch something different to them, like to get those kind of guitar masters basically on your platform to help with that mentorship. There's all sorts of just thinking differently about how you can, if something's being done already, how can you make it better, right?
Hmm.
So for every customer that's involved. So yeah. Yeah, I don't know if there's anything else you wanted to share. That was just something I was thinking about because I feel like there are a lot of people have ideas and like, oh, I think I can do it better, or I'll have a better brand or something. And it's like, well, what's the real value? Like at the end of the day, people want, like, they want to help themselves. Like by, if they're going to be a part of this thing, they want to
Hmm.
like grow in it or get something out of it, right? So
Yeah.
yeah. All right. Well, I think we can wrap it up soon. If we have one more question from YouTube, we can definitely answer it. But Nishant says hello on YouTube. Hello, welcome. We're actually just wrapping up now. Unfortunately, we started about an hour ago. But yes, I think I can share some of the upcoming events that we have. Let me just share my screen here. All right, awesome. So if you head to headway.io/events, or if you're already on our YouTube channel, the events are there. So if you're subscribed, you can turn the notification bell on for these events. But on April 22nd, Robin and Ryan from our product strategy team will be chatting with John Zaratsky, the author of the Sprint Book and Make Time. So you can check out that, and you can register right here through Eventbrite. And oh, Andrew, I don't know if you're switching all these things on me.
Yeah. Sorry.
It's okay. And then also on the 27th, so the week after next, Clint from our design team will be talking about design team alignment through storytelling. So he'll be walking through capturing the story of your target audience and the ways it can serve as a guide throughout your project's life cycle. So it'll be a really good discussion because a lot of times we'll get really technical about design, whether it's design systems or Figma. So I think this is a really good kind of like pulling back for a little bit, and how do you get everybody on the same page as you're going through a project. And too, while I'm on this events page, we have like our video library from all of our past events. These are all YouTube videos as well, so if you're on the YouTube channel, but if you go to some of these, some of these pages here. And these are in the description on YouTube as well on the videos, but you'll be able to find all the resources that were discussed in that video as well. So if you're looking for something quick, it's just a little bit more of a kind of like a resources type page than it is just the video on YouTube. So yeah, so hopefully you can find that helpful. And I think that's about it. I know we're working on events for May and June already, so we're super excited to have that. I know we're excited to get Andrew's actually back in our office. So I was in the office yesterday, so I'm excited to get back in the office. So I'll probably have a different setup than my room here. I'll have get a setup in our studio, which would be great. And we're just excited. We've been talking about a lot of great new content that we want to do for the rest of this year to serve all of you and be more helpful along the way. So if we're not available for a live stream, we can still have resources to help you, whether it's video content, articles, all that kind of stuff. We have a lot of great ideas to help all of you out. We have one quick question. I guess Nishant asks, hi, is React Native a good option for my app for my startup? I would say yes, because we use it. And obviously the details can be here or there, like, it can always be, it depends, right? But Andrew, why do we use React Native here at Headway?
Yeah, I would definitely recommend it for your mobile projects. There are some cases where you'll want to combine React Native with something native like a Swift or Kotlin or Java. But for a lot of cases, we tap into it just for the benefits of speed and also consistency across your code base. You won't have to have two separate teams, essentially one working on, purely iOS, one working on purely and it can help you learn a lot faster and go faster as you're iterating. We talked a lot about earlier around like just the value of no code or low code, or even this, which is like a hybrid technology. It helps you iterate much faster across your code base in both places that you're serving your customers. And there's a lot of good communities, or a lot of good community behind it. I'm trying to look up right now there's a good list of folks that are in the showcase. So, Facebook obviously uses it. Instagram, Oculus, Coinbase is built on that, who just is having their IPO today. Shopify is built on it. Tableau, NerdWallet, Discord, Skype, Pinterest, Tesla, Uber Eats, Walmart, like a lot of big companies tap into it. And I don't know the exact mix that they have. I'm assuming they might have some native code inside of that. It's the benefit of React Native is you can wrap native things inside of React Native to serve if you're looking to do stuff for the processor. So I would say definitely one that's been proven and can be leveraged across both platforms, and we do it quite a bit. 90% of our mobile projects use React Native.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think, nothing wrong with trying out newer tools or newer languages that are coming out there, but at the same time, there is a risk with that. Like, one, the talent pool might not be as big to find talent to do it. The support around it, the community around it, right? Like, I think there's something we said about something that's been a little bit more established, used by bigger organizations, and is supported by a strong community. So, yeah. Well, I think that's it for today. If anybody has any questions for us beyond today, you can contact us at ahoy@headway.io. And we'll be back again here next week, same time, right here on our YouTube channel. So 11 a.m. Central on every Wednesday. There may be one or two Wednesdays of the year where we don't do it, like if we have team week or if we're out of the office. We have our holiday refresh that we do every December. But for the most part, we're here every week. So yeah, Carla, yeah, thanks for joining us today. Hopefully, looking forward to connect with you. Be sure to schedule a call with us. Otherwise, we'll follow up later this week. But Nishant, if you're looking for a logo designer, I would go to dribble.com, dribble with 3 B's, and check out all the design work there. You can find exactly what you're looking for and find the right person for what you want to do. So, but otherwise, we got to get going. Thanks everybody for joining us today, and take care, and hopefully see you next week.
Thanks, everyone.